3 of my Doll's House Diary. Now in today's episode I'm going to be working in the entrance hall, getting the stringer put into place alongside the stairs and then getting the stairs and the cupboard glued into place. But first of all I want to start by showing you what I've got done since the last episode. So I fitted the skirting and coving into the dining room. And I've just applied some filler just to a few gaps, sort of especially in the corners where you do the mitre joins. That's normally where you tend to get gaps. But what I'll do is I'll let this filler dry off now and then sand that away and then see if I need to do any more. I filled in sort of the space just beside the skirting board around the hearth. I've only done that on the one side because it's only really visible from this angle and had to use quite a bit in there. That looks quite nice. I'm really pleased with how that came out. But what I want to do now is just move away from the dining room and into the entrance hall. Okay, so I've got the stairs in place there and the understairs covered, and then I've just put a little bit of tape at the top of the stairs there just to hold them in place until they're actually glued. And I've also got at the back there the skirting board that will go along the straight edge of the floor at the top of the landing. And you can see that I've then put another piece of skirting board in that runs down the angle of the stairs. So the first sort of dilemma, I suppose, is how to join up this piece of skirting with this piece. So I think I'll make this longer, so that at the moment goes to the edge of the stair opening. But I think if I bring that out and make it a bit longer, I can then maybe cut it at an angle and then just perhaps sand a sort of rounded edge where the two pieces join. So that will sort of solve that problem. But if I then bring you to the stairs, because the skirting board has got sort of like this shaped moulding piece at the top, I don't want the edge of the stairs to be overhanging that. So the edge of the stairs needs to sit on the straight bit of skirting board. And that's how I've got it positioned here. So in that angle, you can then see gaps, you know, those triangle gaps along each stair. So I need to make the skirting board higher, and that's fine because I can just cut a piece of strip wood to the same thickness and join that on, and that will sit then behind the stairs and inside the understairs cupboard and obviously won't be seen. But then also I don't just want to have the skirting board coming down and cut it off at an angle here. I want to have a straight bit and then go into the angle, because otherwise I think that will just look unfinished. So what I'll then need to do is make a bit of skirting board, just a little straight slither that will probably come in line with that straight stair, so up this way. And then again, just put a little bit of extra straight wood at the bottom of the skirting board to make it higher. So that's the sort of things that I need to sort out. Now I did make a stringer before, but I made it far too short, so there was no way that I could then, you know, it was high enough because it covered those triangle gaps, but too short so that I couldn't get it up the whole stairs. I think I only made it as long as the stairs, but obviously I need it a little bit longer. So I'm going to have a think about where to start. I think probably if I do that piece at the top, bring that out as far as I need to, that straight piece, and then at least I'll sort of have a length. I think if I do the straight piece at the top and the straight piece at the bottom, then I've got that sort of middle gap to fill in. I think that might make sense. So I'm going to work out a height that I need this piece down here. And I think the rest of the skirting will be okay if it's just the normal height, so you know, around the rest of the room. I don't think you're going to be able to tell that that bit is slightly higher because it's sort of like a different section. But we'll see anyway. We can sort of do a dry fit before we glue it, well, paint it and glue it all into place. So let me start by getting that bit measured and getting a piece cut for there. Okay, so I've got my first little piece of skirting board in down there. So that's 11mm wide, which makes it come just behind the front of that stair. So it just overlaps by a little bit, and then it's 20mm high to make the entire piece 35mm high. And I've used a 3mm sheet wood, which is just slightly narrower than the skirting. So if I run my finger under there, I can feel that the actual piece of skirting overlaps by a tiny amount, but I can always sand that down before I apply the paint. I've then used masking tape just to hold the stringer into place, lined up, so I can then go and work out how to do the top piece or the top join. So down here, as you'll see, once I've made this piece wider, I'll make a pencil mark of where I need to cut it off. So that will just sort of come all the way down there, and then I'll cut it off where this piece starts. So that will all be filled in. Now, obviously I'm going to have a shorter piece of skirting over here, but I think that actually looks all right because the skirting starts at the top of the stair, so that sort of makes sense. Okay, so let's go and have a look at the top then and see what we need to do there. So let me just move that, keep moving that radiator cover from room to room. I may need to just put a little bit of light in the back here. My torch batteries have started flashing again. The light started flashing because of the batteries. Okay, put that there like that. So that's where the stringer will sit. Let me see if I can get the camera further along. If we just peer through that gap there. So if I bring this piece of skirting out so that it will actually sit along that top stair. So see, I don't know if you can see that there, if I've got the camera in the right place. It's quite difficult to actually get my head in there. Yeah, so see where I'm putting the skirting board? So the corner of it is at the top of that slant. I think that will work. So I need to take a measurement now from the back of the wall, and then obviously to where I need to come to here. And then again, I'll cut the stringer off at an angle, and that will join in with that. So that'll actually work quite well, I think. I was really worried how I was going to get it all to sort of blend in, but I think that will work. So I'll go and get my rule now, and then I can cut a piece of skirting to go along there, and I'll do obviously the mitre that will then go into that back corner. Then what I need to do is work out how long I need to make the stringer and how deep, but I can just, it doesn't really matter how deep as long as it fits in there, so I can just go to the 35mm high again as I did for this first piece of skirting. So I'll get that top piece of skirting cut first. Okay, so that piece of skirting is now cut, so that's the length that it will be. As I'm sitting it on the stairs there, I've got a bit of gapping underneath that top stair, but I can always sort that out by adding another tread onto that top stair. I can just sit it on top of that one even and sort of cut around the newel post so that that fits. But what I want to do now is take all of these out and see how long I need to make that stringer, and see if the ones that I made previously are actually long enough. Now I've come up with this sort of new way of doing it, and if they are, then that will save me a job. So I'm pleased to say that those stringers are actually going to be the correct length. So there's my little pencil mark of where it needs to come to. So I've even got about 6mm to play with there, but I'm not going to trim it to size yet, and until I've actually got these other pieces fitted, and then I can make exact pencil marks in this. I'm just worried that if I cut that 6mm off, then when I sort of come to do the angles, I might not have enough length. So I've got 2 of those there for each set of stairs, and I'm just assuming that the stairs going up to the second floor are going to be the same. They should be. I don't know why they won't, because the door's in the same position. Yeah, so if I go and dry fit these pieces on there now with one of these stringers and just see if that works, I might as well cut those other pieces I need now as well, and then I can make a start on the landing area at the same time. Right, okay, so that's a bit shadowy in there. That is going to work, and I'm so glad I didn't actually make that cut, because thinking about it now, I've got extra overhanging up there, which I'm probably going to need. I'll pull that down as far as I can so that I've got that join. and it's a little bit high up as well because it's too thick. I'm going to have to trim it height-wise. But thinking about it, when we get down here, that's not going to come to there, is it? Oops, it's just dropped. But it's not going to come to there. It's going to have to, if I just move those stairs over a bit. I should have used a bit of tape. Let me just show you what I mean. So that is going to have to come a lot further forwards so that I fill in this gap here. And I can't do it one-handed. I should have propped the camera up. But so that will come right down so that that corner comes down to the edge of this. And I think I just need to trim a bit off as well so that it is actually going to sit further down like that. Or obviously line up with that bit of skirting board. I think I'm going to be alright with these stringers. I don't think I need to remake them. But what I'll do is prepare these 4 pieces now. And then we can get those put into place with a bit of masking tape and actually then measure these up. And if I need to make them again, I will. But at least this gives me a good idea of how it will go together. So there are my 4 pieces cut. And I've given those a good sand and brushed off the dust. And they're now attached to my painting card for the first coat of paint, which I'll get on this evening. It's now 4:30, so we'll be taking Woody for his walk in half an hour. So I'll probably come back to this in the morning then, do a second coat and then get those fitted. But I was just sort of looking out in the garden. I saw the deer earlier and I was hoping she would pop back out because I just wanted to say thank you so much to everyone that suggested a name, and you all suggested some really lovely names, but the one that actually made me laugh out loud was Deirdre. So I'm going to call her Deirdre, and that was suggested by Nuss1E, or perhaps it's pronounced Nussy, so thank you for that. So when Deirdre appears, I'll let you know. So it's the next morning now, and I've just given those a gentle sand and then a second coat of paint. And whilst they're drying, I just want to pop back into the doll's house. So I also started editing this episode this morning so that I can actually upload it to YouTube this afternoon. And whilst editing, you actually see lots of things that you don't see with the naked eye. So I've spotted lots of little sort of touch-up jobs that will need doing. Starting here on this door, although now that doesn't actually look quite obvious even with the naked eye, but lots of little sort of paint touch-ups that I need to do and little areas that will need attention. I also annoyingly knocked the door handle off of that door when I was taking the stairs out yesterday afternoon, so I'll need to glue that back in. I've just sort of put that in that room for now. And also the stairs, some of the paintwork on the stairs and the wood dye will need touching up. So I'll do all of that as well. But that's why sometimes it's really good to go through, not necessarily with a camera, but perhaps with a light or a torch, and just have a really good look at all the sort of little details, you know. And I think as well, because as you know, I've sort of taken the doll's house apart and started again, some of the surfaces aren't as straight as they would be if you're working in a new house or from a kit or something like that. So there's other bits that I will need to touch up if they're not covered with skirting and all that sort of thing. So that was quite good. And I also wanted to take this opportunity just to say thank you to Hazel Weil, who sent me a really nice message through Facebook giving me some tips and advice on doing the, you know, matching up the skirting board to the stringers in the sort of staircases and everything. So thanks, Hazel, that was really helpful. And the other thing as well I wanted to say was that if you do want to leave a comment or offer me some tips and advice, then please do. I've had quite a few people say to me, well, I didn't want to say anything because I thought you'd already know, but that isn't necessarily the case. You know, a lot of tips and advice I've read are things that I have never actually thought about, and I've been doing this hobby now for over 23 years. And even if it is something that I do know about or a technique or method that I've used before, the chances are that somebody else will read the comment and they will find it really helpful. So please do leave your comments and any suggestions you might have for the doll's house. I'm always really happy to read anything, any of your suggestions or any tips and advice. Okay, so I think those pieces of skirting will be dry now, so I'll go and check and then we can get those fitted. Okay, so I started by gluing the 2 pieces of skirting board into place. So the piece down there and then the piece at the top of the stairs there. And then I'm just trying the stringer that I'd already made into place, and unfortunately it is going to be too short. To get it at the bottom here so that there isn't a gap showing, either a triangle or a gap showing at the front of the stair, it needs to come down, as you can see, quite far. So it needs to come to there, and that's even past the door surround, so that I can cut it off straight and fill that gap entirely. And then if I just take you upstairs, that leaves quite a large gap at the back there. So the stringer is actually going to need to be about, I would say, 1 inch longer to be able to cover that area. Now, I don't really just want to add another piece on to the end, as I want it to be all one piece. So I'm going to remake both of them. But because I want to get this episode on today, I'm going to make this into a 2-parter. So I'll carry on with this, but I'll get the video so far uploaded, and then we'll do this, come back to this in the next episode, which will hopefully be next Friday. But I hope if you're working on your stairs at the moment, I hope that gives you an idea of how to do it if you've got a sort of similar setup, even though I haven't been able to complete it today. Okay, so that's it for today. I really hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you again in episode 54. So until then, take care. Bye.